Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm Lex,
And I'm Vera,
and we're diving into a topic that I know is on a lot of your minds.
especially if you're tuning in from Excel Edge Realty.
Yeah, figuring out how to finance your first home here in the Philippines.
Absolutely.
So whether you're just starting to think about home ownership or you're actively out there house hunting,
Mm-hmm.
this deep dive is for you.
That's right. We're going to be breaking down an article from IRL Properties that compares the two main contenders for home loans here,
Okay,
Pag-IBIG and bank loans.
classic matchup.
It is a classic matchup.
So the big question we're tackling today is, which one of these is the right fit for you?
For you as a first-time home buyer in the Philippines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into all the details,
Yes.
let's just set the stage. The article really emphasizes how affordability is a major concern for a lot of Filipinos.
Rightfully so.
And I think that's something that probably resonates with a lot of our listeners, too.
For
So let's start with Pag-IBIG. I know it's a government-backed option, but to be honest, I'm not super clear on all the ins and outs.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of know the name Pag-IBIG,
Yeah.
but maybe aren't so sure about the specifics. So
Yeah.
essentially, it's the Home Development Mutual Fund.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a savings program that also offers home loans to its members.
Oh,
So, think of it as this program designed to help Filipinos
yeah.
achieve that dream of home ownership, especially for those who might not qualify for those traditional bank loans.
I see. So it kind of opens doors for people
Exactly.
who might not, have all the typical requirements.
Exactly.
Okay. So speaking of requirements,
Mhm.
what are we looking at here? What do you need to actually qualify for a Pag-IBIG loan?
So first of all, you have to be an active Pag-IBIG member.
Yep.
And have been making those regular contributions. They want to see, that you're serious about saving. And then, of course, they have, some of those standard requirements. You got to be of legal age within a certain age range, have a decent financial history, no foreclosures on your record. But one of the things that makes Pag-IBIG really attractive, especially for first-time buyers, is that they have all these different programs kind of tailored for different income levels.
Oh, wow. So it's not just like a one-size-fits-all.
Not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they have programs like the Affordable Housing Loan Program, which is specifically designed for, people with those lower incomes to, be able to get into a home.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're really trying to make home ownership accessible
Exactly.
to a wider range of Filipinos.
Yeah.
That's great. So let's say I meet all the requirements. What can I actually use this loan for?
So many things. You can buy like a house and a condo unit, even just a residential lot. You can build a house on land that you already own, which a lot of people do here.
Yeah.
If they've maybe inherited some property.
Yeah.
They also have loans for home improvement and refinancing.
Oh, wow. So it's not just limited to buying a pre-built home.
No, they really try to, accommodate all those different needs people might have.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about the thing that everyone always focuses on when it comes to loans. Interest rates.
Yeah.
Fill us in. What's the deal with Pag-IBIG?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, especially for first-time buyers. As of June 2021, which is what our article is referencing, the rates ranged from like 5.75% for a one-year loan, all the way up to 9.875% if you stretch it out over 30 years.
Okay, so it's kind of in line with what you might see from a bank then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's comparable. But here's the thing. Pag-IBIG has a special fixed rate of 3%.
Wait, 3%?
3%?
That's way lower.
For minimum wage earners.
I mean, that's significantly lower than anything I've seen from banks.
Yes, especially if you are in that category where that applies to you. That could be a huge selling point for Pag-IBIG.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine the potential savings over, the lifetime of the loan. That's incredible. So that kind of stability with that lower rate, that could really make a big difference for someone who's just starting out.
For sure. Now, you did mention 30-year loans.
Yeah.
Which is a really long time to be paying a mortgage. So that brings us to something we need to discuss, which is compounded interest.
Okay, I know this is important, but I'll be honest, I always get a little bit lost when we start talking about compounded interest.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky. So basically, let's say you borrow 1 million pesos at a 6% interest rate over 30 years.
Okay.
You're going to end up paying back over 2.8 million.
Wow.
Almost triple the original amount. So,
So even though that 3% sounds amazing,
right.
You got to think about that long-term impact of a 30-year loan.
Exactly. It's really about finding that balance between what's affordable now and what makes the most sense in the long run.
Okay, so important for our listeners to really, take note of this stuff because this is like, real world stuff.
Real world finances. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like Pag-IBIG has some real advantages,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those who, qualify for that special rate. But what about bank loans? Like, where do they fit into this whole picture?
Yeah, so bank loans typically have a wider range of interest rates and loan terms.
Okay.
They usually range from 5% to 10%.
Hmm.
And unlike Pag-IBIG, they offer both fixed and variable rates.
Okay. Well, hold on. Can we just back up for a second?
Sure.
What's the difference between a fixed and a variable rate?
So with a fixed rate, your interest stays the same throughout the loan.
Okay.
Which gives you that predictability we were talking about.
Yeah.
But with a variable rate, it can fluctuate based on what's happening in the market.
Okay, so that's riskier, right? Because you don't really know
It is a little riskier.
what your payments are going to look like in the future.
Exactly. But it can be beneficial if interest rates happen to go down.
Right.
So, it's kind of a gamble.
So I can see how that would appeal to some buyers.
Yes.
But maybe not so much for those who are really prioritizing like that stability and predictability.
Exactly. It's all about, what your priorities are. Do you value that stability of the fixed rate, or are you okay with a little bit of risk for potentially, having lower payments?
That's a great question for everyone to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about interest rates, but what about the other requirements that banks have? Are they generally stricter than Pag-IBIG?
They tend to be stricter,
Okay.
especially when it comes to income and credit history. They really want to see, that you are a responsible borrower and that you have the financial means to actually repay the loan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their money, so they want
Of
to
course.
minimize that risk.
Exactly.
Okay, but wouldn't that make it harder for first-time buyers who maybe don't have, a long credit history or super high income?
It can, but there are ways to navigate that.
Yeah.
For example, some banks offer programs that are specifically for first-time home buyers, and those have more flexible requirements. And this is where having a good credit score comes in.
So if you're thinking about buying a home, anytime in the future, building that solid credit history now is super important.
It's really important.
All right, so we've kind of covered the basics of both Pag-IBIG and bank loans. For our listeners who are trying to make sense of all of this, is there one that's like better? Is there a clear winner here?
There really isn't a one-size-fits-all answer.
Ugh.
It all comes down to your individual circumstances and what your priorities are in a loan.
All right, so no easy answers.
No easy answers.
But maybe we can break down some key areas of comparison.
Yeah, let's do that.
Just to kind of help our listeners, figure out which direction they might want to go in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to interest rates for a second. How do they actually compare?
So bank loans, they might have a lower initial rate, but remember, those can fluctuate.
Right.
With a variable rate, Pag-IBIG, on the other hand, they're offering stability with those fixed rates, especially for minimum wage earners.
Right. But then again, doesn't that lower interest rate come at the cost of a much longer loan term?
That's a really good point. And, potentially higher overall interest payments because of that compounding we were talking about.
Yeah.
So you could end up paying more in the long run, even with a lower rate, if you stretch out those payments over 30 years.
So it's really about looking at, those long-term costs as well.
Yes.
Not just the initial, interest rate.
Exactly.
Okay. What about the loan terms? How does, the length of the loan really affect affordability?
So with Pag-IBIG, you have those 30-year loan terms, which can make the monthly payments way more manageable.
Right.
If you're on a tight budget.
But again, thinking back to the compounded interest.
Yeah.
Those lower monthly payments, might be tempting now.
Yeah.
But could end up costing you a lot more over the life of the loan.
Exactly. It's that trade-off, Short-term affordability versus long-term costs.
All right, got it. Now, what about eligibility? Is one generally more accessible than the other?
So Pag-IBIG tends to be more accessible.
Okay.
Especially for those with, those lower incomes, and they have the specific programs that we talked about, and their eligibility requirements aren't quite as strict.
So it sounds like, when it comes to these three things, interest rates, loan terms, eligibility, there are advantages and disadvantages to both.
Exactly.
So there's no clear winner.
It really boils down to what's important to you.
I like that. So listeners, I want you to kind of pause for a minute and think about your own situation. Do you prioritize those low monthly payments, even if it means potentially paying more interest over time?
Yeah.
Or do you want to pay off that loan faster, even if it means higher monthly installments?
Those are really good questions to ask.
Because the answer to that is going to kind of guide you in the right direction. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground based on, what our article had to say. But before we move on, I think there are some additional factors that we should touch on that are really relevant to you as first-time homebuyers here in the Philippines.
Okay, like what?
So these weren't specifically mentioned in the article, but these are things you'll definitely want to consider as you navigate this whole process. So first off, down payments. Whether you go with Pag-IBIG or a bank loan, you're likely going to need to make a down payment, which is that percentage of the purchase price that you pay up front.
That's a great point. That down payment can be a significant expense, so it's something to really prepare for.
Exactly.
And factor into your budget.
And then we have those closing costs, too.
Oh, yes.
Right. All those fees that are associated with finalizing the loan.
Those can add up.
Appraisal fees, legal fees, registration fees, sometimes even taxes.
Yeah.
It can really add up.
It's easy to overlook that when you're so excited about buying a home.
For sure.
But it's important to be prepared for those costs.
Absolutely. And speaking of finances, we can't forget about credit scores. Both Pag-IBIG and banks are going to look at your credit history when they're evaluating your loan application.
Of course.
So a good credit score can really make a big difference in terms of your approval chances.
For sure.
And the interest rate that you're offered.
Yeah. It can really open doors to more favorable terms.
Yeah. So if you are, thinking about buying a home sometime in the future, start building a positive credit history now, because it's
really
pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
And lastly, I wanted to mention a strategy that some of our listeners might find helpful. You can actually combine your Pag-IBIG membership with a bank loan. So some banks will allow you to use your Pag-IBIG contributions to make a larger down payment.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you kind of get the benefits of both.
Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds.
Exactly. It's all about exploring those different possibilities and figuring out what combination works for you.
Yeah, it's great advice.
All right, so that wraps up part 1 of our deep dives.
Stay tuned for part 2.
We're going to be back with more insights and tips to help you navigate the Philippine real estate market.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive.
Now, before the break, we were talking about, Pag-IBIG versus bank loans. But there's another kind of big question that comes up, especially for first-time homebuyers.
Yeah.
Is buying even the right move for you right now?
Right.
Or would it make more sense to rent?
Especially here in the Philippines, where the market can be.
Yeah, it's pretty dynamic.
Very dynamic.
So let's just kind of do a quick rundown of the pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah.
Just to give our listeners a clear picture of, what aligns best with their situation.
Sounds good.
So let's start with renting. What are some of the perks of renting?
Well, one of the biggest is flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
So if you need to relocate for work or you're just not ready to settle down, renting gives you that freedom.
Yeah, you're not tied down to a mortgage.
Exactly.
You don't have to go through the hassle of selling a property if you need to move.
Exactly. And then there's the financial side of things.
Okay.
Renting typically requires a much smaller upfront investment.
Oh, for sure.
Than buying a place. You're usually just looking at a security deposit and your first month's rent.
Yeah.
Which is significantly less than a down payment and closing costs.
Yeah, that's really appealing for a lot of people who maybe don't have a lot of savings yet.
Yeah, especially when you're first starting out. And let's not forget about maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
You're not responsible for major repairs or upkeep. If something breaks, you call the landlord.
Exactly.
It's their problem.
It's their problem. So renting definitely offers flexibility, those lower upfront costs. Less responsibility.
Yeah.
It can be a really good option, if you're not quite ready for that long-term commitment.
Exactly.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. But what about the flip side?
Yeah.
Why do so many Filipinos dream of owning their own home?
Well, there's that pride of ownership. It's an asset that you can build equity in and potentially pass down to your kids or grandkids.
It's like an investment in your future.
Exactly. And you have the freedom to personalize your space.
Oh, yeah.
You can renovate, decorate, really make it your own.
You can't always do that when you're renting.
Exactly. And as you pay down your mortgage, you're building equity. It's like a forced savings plan.
Plus, historically, real estate has tended to appreciate over time.
It has.
So you could potentially gain financially from that as well.
For sure. So you have those financial benefits, the sense of security, the pride of ownership. I mean, it makes sense why people
The big deal.
strive for that.
It's a big goal.
It is a big goal. And it's a big decision. It requires careful consideration of your financial situation, your lifestyle, your long-term goals. There's no right or wrong answer.
It's really personal.
What's right for you?
All right. I hope this gives our listeners some food for thought as they're, weighing their options. But let's say you're leaning towards homeownership.
Okay.
You're ready to start exploring the market here in the Philippines. What are some key things that you should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, assess your financial readiness. Do you have a stable income?
Yeah.
A decent credit score? Enough savings for that down payment and those closing costs?
It's like the foundation.
It is a foundation. And once you have a good picture of where you're at financially, determine your budget.
Okay.
And stick to it. Don't get carried away by properties that are outside of your price range.
It's so easy to do that, though.
I know, it's so tempting.
You get caught up in the excitement.
You do. You see all these beautiful homes.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, well, maybe I could just stretch my budget a little bit.
A little bit more.
But it's so important to be realistic.
It really is.
And disciplined.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not just about the purchase price.
Right.
Factor in all those other costs of homeownership.
What else is there?
Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, potential repairs.
Yeah, that stuff adds up.
They can add up quickly, so be prepared.
Okay, so you really got to think about that.
We do.
Long term.
Yes. Think long term.
Okay, now what about choosing the right property? I think a lot of our listeners might be feeling overwhelmed by just the sheer number of options.
There's so many options
that are out there.
It can be really overwhelming.
So how do you even begin to narrow it down?
Well, the first step is to really get clear on what your needs and priorities are.
Right.
What kind of property are you looking for? How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you need? What are your must-have features? Really create that clear vision.
Like a wish list.
Yes, a wish list. And then once you know what you're looking for, you can narrow down your search.
Yeah.
Focus on properties that actually align with your criteria.
Yeah.
And location is key.
Location.
You got it.
So important.
It is so important. Think about things like proximity to work schools, transportation amenities, the overall vibe of the neighborhood.
You want to be somewhere where you feel comfortable.
Exactly.
And you can thrive.
It's about finding the right fit.
Now, I know we've mentioned, reaching out to Excel Edge Realty.
Yes.
But why is it so important to work with, a reputable real estate agent?
Well, a good agent can be an invaluable resource throughout this whole process.
In what ways?
They have in-depth knowledge of the local market.
Okay.
They have access to a wide range of listings. And they have the expertise to help you navigate the complexities.
Yeah, because it can be complicated.
It can be. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of regulations.
So they're like your guide.
They are.
Through this whole process.
They are your trusted advisor.
Okay, so speaking of, the more complicated side of things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the legal side of real estate transactions.
It can seem really daunting.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for first-time buyers.
Especially here in the Philippines.
Yes, there are so many rules and regulations.
So let's break it down. What are the most important things that buyers need to be aware of?
Well, one of the first steps is to verify ownership of the property. You want to make sure that the seller actually has a clear and legitimate title to the property.
So they actually own it and have the right to sell it.
Exactly. That's where a title search comes in.
Okay.
It's basically a process of examining public records to trace the history of ownership and identify any liamations or encumbrances.
So it's kind of like a background check for the property.
It is a background check.
Making sure there are no, hidden surprises or legal issues.
You don't want any skeletons in the closet.
Exactly.
And once you've verified the title, the next important document is the deed of sale.
Okay.
This is the legal document that officially transfers ownership.
So this is like the official paperwork.
It's the official paperwork.
It seals the deal.
Exactly. And this is another thing. It's essential to have this reviewed by a lawyer just to make sure it's accurate and that it protects your interests. Speaking of protection, you also want to have a purchase agreement in place.
Okay. What is a purchase agreement?
So it's a legally binding contract that outlines all the details of the sale.
Okay.
Including the price, the payment terms, closing date, any contingencies.
So it protects both the buyer and the seller?
It does. It prevents any misunderstandings or disputes later on.
So you're not just, relying on a handshake?
No, not at all.
They've got everything in writing.
Exactly. And speaking of things to be aware of, you need to understand the zoning regulations.
Zoning regulations? What are those?
So zoning laws, they determine how land can be used.
Okay.
And this can really impact, your plans for the property.
So like if you wanted to run a business from home,
yeah,
you would need to make sure that's allowed.
Exactly. You don't want to buy a property and then find out later that you can't use it the way you want to.
Yeah, that would be a big problem.
A very big problem.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about verifying ownership, the deed of sale, the purchase agreement zoning regulations. Is there anything else that buyers should know about from a legal standpoint?
Well, taxes.
Taxes.
There are different taxes associated with real estate transactions.
Like what kind of taxes?
Capital gains tax, documentary stamp tax, transfer tax.
Wow, that sounds expensive.
It can be.
Okay.
It's important to factor those costs into your budget.
So maybe talk to a tax specialist.
Yeah, definitely. They can help you make sure you're in compliance with all the regulations.
So the legal side of real estate can feel really complicated.
They can.
Overwhelming.
But by understanding the key documents and regulations and by seeking professional guidance when you need it, you can protect yourself and ensure a smooth transaction.
And that's another area where working with, good real estate agent,
Yes.
like the team at Excel Edge,
Exactly.
can really benefit you.
They can guide you through that process and make sure everything is done correctly.
Okay, so we've talked about the more practical aspects of buying a home.
Financing, choosing the right property, navigating those legal waters.
Yeah.
But let's be real, buying a home is not just a transaction.
It's a journey.
It's a big emotional journey.
It's a huge emotional journey.
There are dreams, hopes, fears, memories, all tangled up
Absolutely.
in this process.
So many emotions.
So let's explore some of those emotional aspects that, our listeners might encounter during their home buying journey. Let's start with the excitement, the anticipation.
The thrill of the search.
Searching for that perfect property, envisioning your life there, picturing all the memories you're going to create.
It's exciting.
But amidst all that excitement, it's also important to be prepared for the potential stress and overwhelm that can come with this process.
For sure. It's a complex process.
It's not easy.
Especially for first-time buyers.
There are so many decisions to make, paperwork to deal with, deadlines.
It can be overwhelming.
So having a support system
Yes.
is so important. Family, friends, maybe a therapist, a trusted real estate agent. Having those people that you can lean on is so important.
Just to have that emotional support.
Yeah.
Because it can be tough.
It can be.
And, let's talk about disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not always, sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
In the real estate market.
You might face obstacles.
You might encounter bidding wars.
Yes.
You might lose out on a property that you were really, really excited about.
That's heartbreaking.
So how do you deal with that disappointment?
Well, first of all, allow yourself to feel those emotions. Don't bottle them up. Talk about it with someone.
Yeah.
Practice self-care. Give yourself time to process.
It's okay to feel disappointed, frustrated, even sad.
It's part of the process.
And once you've kind of processed those emotions,
Yeah.
you can pick yourself up and keep moving forward.
Exactly. You got to be resilient.
Resilience is key.
It is.
Now let's talk about attachment.
Okay.
Because we often develop these really deep emotional connections
Yeah.
to our homes. They're not just buildings. They're where we create memories, celebrate milestones, build our lives.
They hold so much meaning.
So selling a home
Yeah.
can be a very emotional experience.
It can be like saying goodbye to a part of yourself.
So how do you cope with that?
Well, acknowledge those emotions.
Okay.
Honor the memories that you created there. Maybe take some photos.
Yeah.
Journal your feelings.
So you can kind of remember
Remember
that chapter.
and really grieve that loss because it is a loss.
And then there's moving,
Oh my gosh, moving.
which is a whole other emotional roller coaster.
It is. It's exciting, but it's also exhausting.
It's a major life transition.
It is.
So how do you manage, all those ups and downs?
Well, be prepared for them. Practice patience with yourself and with others, and prioritize self-care throughout that whole process.
Because it can be really draining.
It can be.
So it sounds like self-care is super important
Essential.
when it comes to buying or selling a home.
Absolutely. Whether it's taking a walk in nature, reading a book, getting a massage, whatever helps you relax and recharge.
Just make time for yourself.
You have to. Because your emotional well-being is just as important as your financial well-being when it comes to real estate.
And that's something we really understand at Excel Edge Realty.
We do.
We're not just real estate agents.
Right.
We're also, your trusted advisors and supporters.
We're here for you.
We're here to guide you through this whole process.
The whole thing.
Not just the financial and legal aspects, but also the emotional ones.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about technology.
Oh, technology.
It's really changing the game in real estate, isn't it?
It's transforming the industry.
Yeah. From those online property portals
Yes.
to virtual tours.
Digital transaction platforms.
It's making everything more accessible, efficient, transparent.
It really is.
So let's break it down. Let's start with those online property portals.
Yeah.
You know, websites like Lamoody, Property24, ZipMatch, those have become like the go-to resources.
They have. They offer such a vast database of listings.
So you can literally just sit on your computer
In your pajamas.
and browse through hundreds of listings.
Thousands.
And you can do it any time of day or night.
That's the beauty of it.
It's a lot easier than, driving around different neighborhoods.
Yeah. And hoping to find a for sale sign.
Yeah, hoping to get lucky.
Exactly. And these portals don't just show you listings.
Right.
They give you tons of information about the properties.
Like what kind of information?
Photos, virtual tours, floor plans, details about the neighborhood.
Oh, wow. So you can really get a sense of a property before you even see it in person.
Exactly.
Speaking of seeing it in person, you mentioned virtual tours.
Yes.
Tell me more about those.
So virtual tours are amazing, especially in today's world. They allow you to experience a property remotely through these 360-degree panoramic images or videos. It's like taking a virtual walkthrough.
So if I'm, really busy with work or I live abroad, I can still, get a good feel for a property without having to physically be there.
Exactly. You can explore each room, get a sense of the layout, check out the view.
It's amazing.
It's incredible technology.
So I can see how that would be super helpful for both buyers and sellers.
It is.
Now, what about the transaction process itself?
Yeah.
Has technology streamlined that as well?
It has. There are digital platforms now for managing documents, signing electronically.
Oh, that's so much easier.
It is. And making online payments.
So no more, mountains of paperwork.
No more piles of paper.
Or, going back and forth with couriers.
Exactly. It's so much faster and more efficient.
And more secure probably, too.
Yeah, and way more secure.
And we can't forget about social media.
Social media is huge.
It's become such an important tool.
It has.
For real estate agents and developers.
They can showcase properties in such a visually appealing way.
Yeah, Instagram is perfect for that.
Oh, it's perfect. You know those beautiful photos and videos?
And they can connect with potential buyers directly.
It's changed the game in terms of, visibility and reach.
Yeah, and I know technology is also playing a role in property management, too.
It is.
Making things easier for tenants and landlords.
Yeah, you have smart home technology, online tenant portals, automated rent collection.
So it's kind of making everything more convenient?
More convenient and more responsive.
So yeah, technology is really shaping the real estate industry in some pretty profound ways.
It's an exciting time.
And at Excel Edge Realty, we're embracing all of these advancements.
Absolutely.
We're constantly innovating, exploring new ways to use technology to make your experience even better.
We're committed to staying ahead of the curve.
So speaking of the future,
let's
talk about what lies ahead for the real estate market here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends that are kind of shaping this industry?
Well, one of the key trends is the continued growth of the Philippine economy.
Right. The Philippines has been one of the fastest growing economies in Asia.
Exactly. And that's fueling demand for real estate.
So we can expect to see even more development.
We can.
Yeah.
Especially in those urban areas.
Okay.
In the residential, commercial, industrial sectors.
So the market is projected to stay strong.
The projections are looking good.
Now, as cities get more and more crowded, we're also seeing a trend towards vertical development.
Yeah, high-rise condominiums.
Oh, yeah.
Mixed-use developments, skyscrapers. It's about maximizing that land use.
Because there's only so much space.
Exactly. And with technology constantly evolving, we can expect even more innovation and disruption in the industry.
Like what kind of things?
Artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality.
Oh, wow. Those are all big things.
They are. And they could play a huge role in, the future of how we buy, sell, and manage properties.
So imagine using AI to get, personalized property recommendations.
Yeah.
Or even experiencing a property through VR.
Without leaving your couch. Before you even set foot in it. That's pretty incredible. It's mind-blowing. So the possibilities really are endless.
They really are.
Yeah.
And at Excel Edge Realty, we're always exploring how to leverage those technologies.
Yeah, we're always looking for those new ways to benefit our clients.
We're committed to shaping the future.
Now let's talk about something that I think is often overlooked.
Okay.
But it's incredibly important.
What's that?
The role of community.
Community.
In real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Because real estate isn't just about, bricks and mortar.
It's about people.
It's about connections, that sense of belonging.
That sense of place.
A strong community can really enhance the value
Absolutely.
and the appeal of a property.
It can. You know, when people feel connected to their community, they're just happier.
Yeah.
More engaged and more invested in their surroundings.
So how can buyers and investors assess the strength of a community when they're considering a property? What are some signs of, a good community? We'll look for community engagement.
Okay.
Are residents actively involved in local events, organizations, initiatives?
So are people participating?
Yeah, are they contributing?
Are they shaping their neighborhood?
Exactly. A strong community is one where people really feel a sense of ownership.
Okay.
And shared responsibility. Another indicator is the presence of, amenities and green spaces.
Like parks and playgrounds.
Parks, playgrounds, community centers, libraries. Places where people can connect and relax.
Yeah, just enjoy this.
Yeah, exactly. And a thriving community also values diversity and inclusion. It welcomes people from all walks of life, regardless of, their background, their ethnicity, their beliefs.
It's about celebrating differences.
Yes.
And creating a welcoming environment for everyone.
Absolutely. And lastly, a strong community has that sense of safety and security.
Oh, that's so important.
It is so important. And, residents feel comfortable walking around. Kids can play freely.
Yeah.
There's a low crime rate.
It's essential for a good community.
So when you're considering a property, look beyond the physical features.
Yeah.
And assess the strength of that community.
It's about finding a place where you can really feel at home.
Exactly.
Feel connected.
Connected and supported.
Well said. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode.
We have.
We've talked about, those financing options, choosing the right property.
The legal side of things.
The legalities, the emotional side of buying and selling.
The importance of community.
The impact of technology.
We've covered it all.
So we hope this information has been helpful and empowering for our listeners.
Yeah.
As you kind of navigate your own real estate journey here in the Philippines.
Absolutely.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
And the more informed you are, the better decisions you're going to make.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking for some expert guidance and support, don't hesitate to reach out to Excel Edge Realty.
We're here to help you find that perfect property.
That meets your needs.
Your budget, your dreams.
We're committed to making the whole process,
the whole thing,
as smooth and stress-free as possible.
We are.
And rewarding, of course.
Of course.
So be sure to visit our website at www.exceledge.com.ph.
There you go.
You can browse our listings, learn more about our services, and connect with our team.
And before we go, don't forget to hit that follow button.
Oh, yeah.
And share this episode with anyone who you think could benefit from this knowledge.
We love sharing our expertise.
We do.
And helping Filipinos,
make those informed decisions.
Make those smart decisions.
Absolutely.
When it comes to real estate.
Yes.
All right. Ready for part 3?
I am ready. Let's go.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So in this final part, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, which is the whole idea of sustainability and responsibility in real estate development.
Yeah, that's something that's top of mind for a lot of buyers these days.
It really is, especially, people who are looking for properties that align with their values.
Sure.
Okay, so let's break it down. What exactly do we mean when we talk about, sustainable and responsible real estate development?
It's about creating communities that aren't just, visually appealing and functional,
right,
but also environmentally friendly, socially inclusive, economically viable.
So it's about building for the long term.
Exactly. Thinking about the needs of present and future generations.
It's not just about, building green buildings.
Right.
It's about creating communities that are sustainable on multiple levels.
It's a holistic approach. You got to consider the environmental, the social, the economic impacts.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you give us some concrete examples of what that actually looks like, in the real world?
Sure. So one key principle is energy efficiency. Sustainable buildings are designed to minimize energy consumption.
Okay.
Things like energy efficient appliances, LED lighting, proper insulation, solar panels.
So reducing our reliance on those fossil fuels.
Exactly.
Lowering those carbon emissions.
Yeah. Another important factor is water conservation. So think water-saving fixtures, rainwater harvesting systems, landscaping techniques that minimize water usage.
Right. Water is precious.
It is a precious resource. And, speaking of footprints, sustainable development also emphasizes the use of eco-friendly building materials.
So like bamboo, recycled wood, natural stone, things like that.
Yeah, materials that are sourced sustainably have a low environmental impact
Okay.
and ideally are locally sourced.
And then there's, waste management
Yeah, huge.
and recycling.
Absolutely. Sustainable buildings are designed to minimize waste generation, and they have recycling programs in
Right,
place.
to divert all that waste from landfills.
Exactly. It's that circular economy approach.
Yeah.
Using and reusing resources as much as possible.
Now, sustainable development goes beyond just the environmental stuff.
It does.
Right. We also have to think about these social and economic considerations.
Yeah, it's about creating communities that are inclusive and equitable. Communities that provide access to affordable housing, quality education, healthcare facilities, job opportunities.
So everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly.
So how does Excel Edge Realty kind of incorporate these principles into its operations?
Well, first and foremost, we're very careful about who we partner with. We choose developers who share our commitment to sustainability and responsibility.
Okay.
We believe that by supporting those who are prioritizing these values, we can contribute to a more, environmentally and socially conscious real estate industry here.
So using your influence to kind of promote that positive change.
We try our best. We also take the time to educate our clients
Oh, that's great.
about the importance of these things. We talk to them about energy efficiency, water conservation, waste management, the benefits of choosing eco-friendly properties.
So you're not just, selling properties, you're empowering your clients.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. And
Yeah.
the more people understand about sustainable living, the more likely they are to embrace it.
Well, it's really inspiring to see a company like Excel Edge taking such a, proactive approach.
We try our best.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the Philippine real estate market, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
What does home mean to you?
Wow, that's a good one. It's a question that goes beyond, just the physical aspects of a property. It's about that feeling you get.
It's about, finding a space where you can truly be yourself, where you feel loved, supported, inspired, creating a sanctuary that reflects your values, your dreams, your journey,
It's about finding a place where you belong.
a place that you can truly call home.
Home.
And on that note, we want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and helpful
Yes, we did.
as you navigate your own real estate journey here in the Philippines. Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
The more informed you are, the better decisions you're going to make.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for some expert guidance and support, please reach out to Excel Edge Realty. We're here to help you find a property that not only, meets your needs, but also speaks to your heart.
You can visit our website at www.excelage.com.ph to browse our listings, learn more about our services, and connect with our team.
And before we sign off, just a quick reminder to hit that follow button and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful.
We're passionate about empowering Filipinos to achieve those real estate dreams.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep reaching for those stars. Your dream home is out there.
And with the right guidance and support, you can make it a reality.
Absolutely.